In the previous section of this Gender Alchemy 101 series, I described alchemy as the natural process of evolution, which is being guided by the intuitive wisdom of your soul. And so, depending on how you interpret that explanation, it can be easy to assume that alchemy is out of your control, or like it's not something that you get to actively participate in. But that's not the case at all, because you absolutely are in the driver's seat for this one. Well, okay, driver's seat might be a bit of an overstatement, but you're definitely not in the back seat. So instead, I would say that you're more like a co-pilot who is sitting in the passenger seat. So the evolutionary process is driving your life in a certain direction, and you are right there acting as a co-creative steward of your life energy. And so in this section, I want to zoom in on this notion that there is some work to be done. And I want to address what you can do as a gender alchemist in order to perpetuate and guide this process of transformation. So without further ado, let's talk about step number 2, which is practice mindfulness. Now, first off, I just want to acknowledge that there is an overwhelming amount of information on this topic, which is already available to you. So instead of giving you a comprehensive rundown of this topic, because there's just plenty of others who can do it better than I can, and they're more specialized in that area, instead, what I want to do is frame mindfulness within the context of gender alchemy. And then in the description, I'll include some links to some of the most popular and widely adopted mindfulness resources that I'm aware of. You can think of these just as entry points. They'll be good for beginners. And so then if they resonate with you, they'll just help you take those next steps on your journey. Okay, so to begin for today, very quickly, let's just address, so what is mindfulness? Well, it's pretty simple in my experience. It's just being aware. It's being here inside of your body and inside of the present moment. So this is when you're connected to the world, you're feeling your sensations, and noticing your thoughts, and in general, you're just being present. So mindfulness is something that you can practice all throughout the day. It doesn't matter what you're doing. As long as you're here, you're being mindful. Even if you've got a lot going on, so maybe you have a wild mind, maybe you're experiencing some really painful emotions, you're going through challenges. Regardless, as long as you're noticing your experience from this foundation of balance and equanimity, you're being mindful. And so the main reason that mindfulness is so important to you, the gender explorer, is because as you take steps along this path, you're exploring gender, you're going to be introducing major change into your life. And that can be totally disorienting, to put it lightly. And so that's the situation that mindfulness addresses. This is about finding calm within the storm, peace within chaos. So in a very general sense, broad strokes, that's mindfulness. And now let's talk about what this practice has to do with alchemy and why it's so relevant to the gender alchemist. Okay, so first, I just want to remind you of this analogy of the fire, which I talked about in the last section of this series. So if you remember when I say fire, what I'm referring to is the flames of personal evolution, which are consuming everything that is not you in order to reveal everything that is you. So let's set that aside. And then I also want to give you a description of mindfulness that aligns with this fire analogy. And then we're going to compare the two. So another way to describe mindfulness is staying in the flames of the present moment in order to reveal the truth of who you are. And so if you're saying, well, hey, those two descriptions sound pretty much exactly the same, well, you're right, they are. Except for there is one crucial difference, and that is that alchemy is just an idea, and mindfulness is something that you get to practice every single day. So really, mindfulness is like an application of alchemy. So this is like taking a word like transformation, which is totally abstract, doesn't really mean much. But now we're bringing it into your experience so that you can engage with it and learn about it in real time. But of course, the only way that you're gonna be able to like turn this into a real thing in your life is if you learn how to actually stay in the fire, right? The fire of the present moment, the fire of evolution, because that's where this intelligent evolutionary change is taking place. So if step number 1 of this series was about opening yourself to the process and being willing to step into that fire, then step number 2 is all about being able to stay in it. So being present, staying in the fire of your own becoming. And that's where mindfulness comes into play, because staying in the fire is literally the entire point of being mindful. So this is about returning to the present moment, cultivating balance, just staying inside of the process. So if you had a job to do as an alchemist, this would be it right here. Be here, stay here, because here is where alchemy is happening. It's not there, but here. But I want to give you another way of looking at this process. So, and this is through the lens of alchemy. So every moment that you're sitting here is a moment that you are sitting in the flames of your own becoming. And so that's exactly how we've been describing the alchemical process, right? Except now, instead of this being a concept or an interesting idea, it's actually happening in real time. And there you are, you're witnessing this process unfold. So moment to moment, you're continually returning to the truth of the present moment. And so as you're doing this, you're noticing how in order to be here, you have to let go of everything that is not here. Just like how in order to be you, you have to let go of everything that is not you. And so that right there, that's where the dots start connecting. It's like, this is alchemy in action. This is what the process of transformation looks like in real time. This is what it means to sit in the flames of the present moment and allow for everything that is not you to fall away. Which means that all you have to do as a gender alchemist is to just show up for the thing. Show up fully, like with your present rooted here. And you sit in that fire and you watch in real time how the old you starts falling away. And then the truth of who you are begins shining forth. And so in general, that's a way that we can take this huge concept of transformation and we can just condense it into this like one repeatable, practicable, actionable thing. So my advice with this step is to invite mindfulness into your life and to establish yourself into something like a daily meditation routine. And then if you're able to do that, the next little part of this step would be to lean into that heat. So if you've ever done hot yoga, you know that once you get through that initial claustrophobia, next is you got to lean into the heat. Otherwise, it's just going to be too much. And so in the same way, I want you to get over that initial bite of the present moment. You just relax and you breathe, and then you lean into the thing. Because that's the only way you're going to get through this evolutionary process is you got to embrace it. You got to feel it fully. With nothing to hide, you got to stand naked in the flames of your own becoming. And then in our next video, which is going to be step 3 of this series, I'm going to tell you where to go from here. Because meditation is great, but there's also this component of like, okay, now where do I go from here? Like, how do I actually live my life? Because just sitting in meditation forever is not really the point of this journey. And so that means that right now, what you're gonna need is some sort of a navigational tool that is gonna help guide you even deeper into this process of transformation. So check out this next video, and then I'll tell you about how to do just that. All right, my friend, I'll see you in the next one.